Good evening, students. So in this video, we are going to discuss why exactly hyperpigmentation happens in Addison's disease. You must have seen videos and photos of Addison's disease. Even foreigners have got this dark skin. Their skin gets pigmented, right? So why exactly the hyperpigmentation happens in case of Addison's disease? This is actually a beautiful example of both the negative feedback mechanism and also of molecular mimicry, and we're going to understand how exactly the whole thing works, right? So first of all, we need to understand what exactly happens in Addison's disease, right? So let's draw first of all the master controller, hypothalamus. And it's going to release one hormone called CRH, right? This CRH will go up to the pituitary, right? And it will make anterior pituitary release what? ACTH. This ACTH will go to kidneys, right? And it will make the adrenal cortex release your cortisol. This cortisol will ultimately go into the blood and it will give negative feedback both to hypothalamus and to pituitary. Negative feedback to both these structures, both to hypothalamus and to anterior pituitary, right? Now, what exactly goes wrong in Addison's disease? In Addison's disease, this organ, the adrenal cortex, is hypofunctioning. It may get damaged due to multitude of reasons, like it may be infected with tuberculosis, or it may, get affected by hemorrhage or metastasis. Multitude of reasons it can get affected, right? So for some reason it is hypofunctioning or not functioning. Now if it is not functioning properly, then what we are going to get? This cortisol level is going to reduce, right? If this cortisol level gets reduced, right, then negative feedback both on hypothalamus and pituitary will get reduced, right? If cortisol gets reduced, this negative feedback will get reduced. That means there is nothing to inhibit hypothalamus from releasing CRH, and there is nothing to inhibit pituitary from releasing ACTH, right? So what ultimately will happen? Of course, the ACTH level will increase, right? The CRH level will increase and your ACTH level will increase, right? Up to now, the story is simple. Since this thing is hypofunctioning, right? So cortisol level will reduce, the negative feedback inhibition will get reduced, the hypothalamus will become free, anterior pituitary will become free, the CRH will increase, and ACTH will increase. But why? Increase in ACTH leads to hyperpigmentation, right? This will bring us to an interesting topic of molecular mimicry, right? The structure of the ACTH is very similar to another compound called MSH. MSH is your melanocyte stimulating hormone. So structure of ACTH is very similar to MSH. So melanocytes are not able to distinguish between a molecule of MSH and molecule of ACTH. So ACTH in turn ends up stimulating the melanocytes because of molecular mimicry, right? The molecules are same. They look same to melanocytes, right? So ACTH ends up stimulating melanocytes. There's also one more interesting example of molecular mimicry, that is the HCG, the hormone, first hormone to increase in pregnancy. With the help of HCG, we detect pregnancy. That all those urine tests are based on HCG detection, right? So HCG, the structure of HCG is very similar to TSH, right? So pregnancy is a euthyroid condition, of course, but the function of thyroid gland increases slightly because of that. Because the thyroid gland can't distinguish between HCG and TSH. So HCG ends up stimulating the thyroid hormone, right? So coming back to this, why exactly you get hyperpigmentation in Addison's disease, right? For this, you need to understand the whole sequence first of all. Hypothalamus is going to secrete CRH. The CRH will go to anterior pituitary. It will secrete ACTH. ACTH will go to adrenal cortex, and from that we will get cortisol, right? In Addison's disease, this adrenal cortex is not going to function, so cortisol is going to reduce, right? If cortisol gets reduced, then the feedback inhibition over the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary is going to reduce. Now hypothalamus can secrete huge amount of CRH. Now this will lead to further to secretion of great amount of ACTH, right? And this ACTH is very similar to MSH, right? And melanocytes won't be able to distinguish whether it is MSH or ACTH, so they get stimulated, and this thing leads to hyperpigmentation, right? Okay, so hopefully this video helped you in understanding the concept that why exactly we get hyperpigmentation in Addison's disease, right? Wish you all the very best. Thank you.